Okay, so it's Wednesday, September 4th, I believe. And I just wanted to make a follow-up video and show you some of the issues that came up after the off-road adventure this past weekend, over the Labor Day weekend. We went from Pahrump, Nevada, over Wheeler's Pass to Cold Creek. And then from Cold Creek, we went to Corn Creek, a wildlife refuge, and took, what was the name of that road? Mormon Wells Road, to US 93 at Coyote Springs. And from here to Cold Creek is probably, I don't know, I'd have to take a stab in the dark and say it's probably around 20 miles. And from Cold Creek to Corn Creek Reserve is probably another 5 or 6 miles, maybe 10 miles. And it's about 50 miles from the US 95 at Corn Creek to Coyote Springs on US 93. If you wanted to look it up, if you were so inclined to look it up on Google Earth or something, that's where we went. And when we got into, we left here Friday afternoon, late morning, early afternoon. I think it was about 11 o'clock when we finally left here. And by the time we stopped for the night at about 5 o'clock, we were about 10 or 15 miles into the wildlife refuge at Corn Creek. And it's 21 miles from the ranger station to the actual official campground. And that first 15 miles, I swear that road was paved by the devil himself, man. It's not that it was all rutted up or anything like that. It was just really, really rough. I mean, it shook the truck. I didn't think there was going to be anything left on the truck by the time we got to where we were going, and I just finally had enough. So my butt hurt, and this is a pretty cushy truck, but I just couldn't go any further. So screw it, I'm done. So if you saw the video, we tried to sleep. Hunter's the only one that got any sleep that night, but we went and got into, finally made it to the campground the next morning and thought, this is nice. It's wooded and it's this is pretty nice. And we got 2.5 miles roughly outside the area where the campground was at, and then the trail just took a crap. I mean, we actually had to get off the trail and make our own trail to bypass a cut that was probably 3 feet deep, 5 feet across.
People to help him plan and support this. He had a mentor.
And the rest of that road, till we just about got out of that area, was all through a wash, and it was just there was some serious rain up there in the last week. But anyway, that was our adventure, and by the time we got back home, and I inspected the damage and the carnage, found some areas of weakness that I need to address. So that's what this video is about. I wanted to point out some areas that it didn't fare so well, and surprising, one of my additions last minute. I mean, within the last 4 or 5 days of that trip, one of the additions that I made was a high lift jack mount. Ultimately, I wanted to do that on a bumper, but I didn't have the material at the time or the money to buy the material for a bumper. So I just went through the scrap pile and dug out some stuff and whipped together a mount that actually mounted to the door. I just took a piece of pipe, basically 1.25 inch, I think it was 1.25 inch pipe, and quartered it or thirded it, whatever you want to say, and mounted it behind here. You can see that. And then welded a piece of flat to that. And there's 3 holes in the base of my high lift jack, and 2 of those holes just have a dowel, 1/2 inch dowel, a locating dowel, and then one of them is a nut. I put these cotter pins in there just to keep the nut from backing off and falling off. Built the thumb screw for the nut. Did that on the top too, and it goes through the holes in the high lift jack. Just a piece of 3/16 welded to that, and the only thing that holds it on is these 1/4-20. They're not even grade 8 bolts. These 1/4-20 bolts. The top one here has got a nut in it because I stripped the threads out of the tubing. And then literally within an hour of leaving the house, I built the mount for the shovel. And that just bolts onto the back, so I can just pop it off, a couple bolts, and it comes right off. But that fared really well. I thought that was gonna. I really didn't have much faith in this. I thought it was gonna, thought it was gonna break off, especially after that first 15 miles. But oops. But I got this ladder rack that I modified. This was on a van that supposed to mount to the drip rails, and I modified it so I could bolt it to the roof of the truck here. And that one is screwed right to the roof with coarse threaded lag screws, like for metal. This one, though, I mounted first, and I tried using expanding nuts. They're like rubber insert that goes into like a 1/2 inch hole, and you put a 1/4-20 bolt in it, and as it draws up, it fattens the business end out. It's supposed to cinch it in. Yeah, that didn't work too well. Yeah, not well at all. So, and there's a little bit of weight on there. The weldernator, I didn't need it, which is a good thing. The air compressor, I took that out of the truck already. But mounted those toolboxes in there. Those did all right. They don't rock around. They're bolted right to the floor. Those D-rings are where I mount the air compressor. You can see where the feet were. That's where the air compressor was mounted. And that was the other issue that I was having. You see how I got these turnbuckles on here, and each one of these turnbuckles mounts to one of those D-rings. And what's happening is that as I go down some of these, bumpy dirt roads, and the truck is shaking, and it's loosening these things up. So I think a couple of times these things backed off enough to fall off the D-ring. And I think I can solve that issue by just tightening them down real tight, and then hitting some Loctite. Yeah, putting some Loctite on them. Damn it, it's blowing up my phone. I think I fixed that problem with Loctite. And but eventually this is all going to get torn back apart and repurposed, methinks. Or I might just keep it the way it is and use that for, backup air. You can just go on eBay and get another tank. But that thing weighs 100 pounds, weighs an ounce. So it takes up a lot of room, and so it's like carrying around an extra person. But I didn't have to remove the gas tank. I was pleasantly surprised there. It has a non-vented brass cap on it. And I've got a shutoff valve here, and of course the factory shutoff valve here. And I actually filled this to the very top with gasoline, and cinched everything. If I were going to use this thing, I'd have to take the cap and at least loosen it so I could get some draw. But yeah, it didn't smell like gasoline in a car at all, so that was a good thing. But my $160 Craigslist BFG 265/75 R16 tires I bought, that Is that what size they are? Oh, my bad. 275 70 R16s. I had, come on, light bias. I had 285 70s on here. These got about, yeah, the tires that were on this thing were horrid. They were worn down to the wear bars, and they were very worn. Weather checked. The tires that were on them when I bought the dang thing. And, you know, I just couldn't wrap my head around spending $200 a tire for the same tire. If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'm going to put the tires I want on it. And I just, at this point, like I said, I need an engine more than I need $2,000 worth of tires. So, you know, for what we use this thing for, I'll just keep buying used tires with 50% tread life left on them and just wear them out. So, you know, $160 for a set of used tires. They're not the greatest. They're kind of old, and they got some dry rot, but they hold air and they mounted easily enough. I mean, I didn't take them anywhere. I didn't balance them. I just mounted them by myself with a tire iron and didn't even bother to balance them, but drove them from, I mean, look it up on Google Earth. It's probably 100 miles. It's got to be at least 100 miles from Coyote Springs via road to Pahrump, and there was no vibration, no shimmying. I was pretty impressed. So, but yeah, some issues we need to deal with. Eventually, I'm going to do away with this gas-powered air compressor setup, and I'm going to do it off the engine. But I need to figure out what I'm going to do in terms of an engine to begin with. I haven't really done anything with this. I just put gas in it and drive it and change the oil every 3,000 miles. But I do want to find out. I'm guessing this truck's got at least 200,000 miles on it. Probably 230,000 miles. And I don't think the engine's ever been overhauled or anything. It certainly drives like it. Not that these TBI engines are powerhouses. They're kind of slugs. I'd like to get a Vortec engine, and at this point, I'm not even interested in keeping it fuel injected. At this point, I mean, I'd like to, but we'll see. Need a new engine. At least a new short block with some Vortec heads. To get a little bit more than 100 horsepower. I mean, this thing is just a slug. But I want to do the air compressor thing off the engine, and I want to keep the weldernator on the engine and hooked up like it was in the 85, which means I need to do some different kind of mounting. But the air conditioning is going to go. That R4 pump is not doing well. I went to drop off my computer at the computer store this morning, and it just sounds bad. I hate those freaking things. They're junk. They suck. But that's what's going on with the Suburban. Other than that, everything went fine. We didn't get stuck. Didn't even get close to getting stuck. Debbie freaked out a couple of times, but it's all good. I'm not doing my job if she's not freaking out from time to time. Oh, nails here. So, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one.